Hey everyone, Dr. Sabrina Solt here.
How's it going, Zach?
All right, today we have an interesting topic for you guys, and we're going to be discussing sugar and carb addiction. And this is important because this is a topic that will usually derail people from their best efforts to get healthy, get in shape, adopt a healthy way of eating, whether it's a carnivore diet, animal-based diet, ketovore diet, keto diet, what have you. Today, the goal of this video is to really go into why it happens, why do you get these addictions, and of course, what you can do about it. And if you see me looking down at my phone, it's because I have my notes in here because I have 20 weeks pregnant. I have pregnancy brain, so I just forget things really easily. So before we actually dive into the what and the why, I think we need to talk about first, which is the unsavory or unwelcome behaviors that come with sugar and carb addiction. Namely things like the binge eating or overeating of said carbs. Now, these behaviors generally tend to trigger the feeling of shame in people. And why is this important, right? Well, shame, if you go into any sort of community on the internet, they're going to tell you, don't shame people. Shame is a horrible thing. We should prevent people from feeling shame in the first place and just like bubble wrap humans so that they never experience shame. I disagree with that. Mm-hmm. I personally think that shame is a really useful emotion. And I thought this for a while because what it does is it actually triggers you to change your behavior. Now, there's actually research surrounding shame and how it is truly an evolutionary preferred emotion that allows you to change behavior to get you accepted by your community. Mm-hmm. So here's where this kind of carb addiction, shame cycle, binge eating stuff plays in together, right? Say we're in a primitive community and you're the carb addict or I'm the carb addict. And our community only has enough food to feed us for a certain amount of time, but I'm the carb addict and I go in and I eat all the carbs. I'm going to get shunned from that community. But the feeling of shame that I might get surrounding like, oh, should I do that? I shouldn't do that is going to protect me from doing that behavior so that my community keeps me in.
That's right. Stupid shit hurt. I say it all the time. Stupid shit hurt.
He does say, and it's not that you're stupid because there are real reasons why you might be addicted to carbs and why they have this physiological and mental emotional hold on you. There's a fly buzzing around here. But it's important to just take shame off the table first because you will never be able to grow past that if you can't see it for what it is, which is just your primitive brain trying to keep you accepted by your community. Humans are pack animals. Basically, we have to have a community that supports us. So take shame off the table, hear what I'm about to say with an open mind, and really take what's going to apply to you so that you can hopefully overcome this carb addiction. And I will caveat this, neither of us are psychologists or therapists. Well, he technically has a degree in psychology, but he's not a practicing psychologist. So yes, and I am a naturopathic doctor. I am not a psychologist, but a lot of the principles I'm going to be talking about here do have some roots in just simple, basic human physiology, human behavior. So it should be helpful for you. Anything to add before we dive in? Okay. So there's 4 main categories of why you're going to have this addiction to sugar/carbs. I'm going to use these interchangeably as we're discussing it because all carbohydrates break down to sugar no matter what. Mm-hmm. Even vegetables. Yeah. People get mad about this fact. Vegetables technically break down to sugar.
Yeah, all plants, right? Broccoli is 67% carbohydrate, right? So that's a large percentage. So yeah, it may not be as much carbohydrate as say a Coca-Cola, but it's still 67% carbohydrate. Right?
Yep. Anyway, so 4 main reasons. You have physical or physiological reasons why you're addicted to it, mental reasons, emotional reasons, and social reasons. So the first one is the physiological is that simply your body is forcing you to eat these carbs because of some sort of metabolic need that it has. Mm-hmm. The most common thing that I've personally seen in clinical practice is severe nutrient deficiencies driving this. Mm-hmm. And this can be both macronutrients and micronutrients. So the first one, there's actually research surrounding this, it's called protein hunger. If you are not satisfying your daily protein requirements, which on average is around 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Yeah, and I also think that when you do lean protein, this causes a problem too.
Well, because that's the fatty protein. That's the second macronutrient that can produce this, which is fat, right? So not eating enough healthy fats will also send you into a spiral to overeat these carbs. And this is because ultimately we have these fancy meat suits that have needs in order to run themselves. They need to meet these nutritional requirements to be successful on a daily basis, to do all the things that you require. So you do have to have an adequate amount of protein. You do have to have an adequate amount of fat. And if those basic macronutrients aren't being met, your body is going to drive you to eat carbs because they are the fastest source of energy to just get you going and get you through.
Yeah, and also, so our environment now, so it's very difficult. So carnivore is a natural, ancestrally appropriate diet. Our environment is not natural and ancestral, right? Everything that we do causes cortisol inappropriately, right? Blue light by itself, just looking at your phone, every time you look at your phone, you're getting a cortisol spike, right? These are not things that we've done historically. So cortisol is one of the other culprits that causes our blood sugar we actually go out of ketosis. We start burning fuel because it's faster, it's more efficient, and it gets us through whatever we're about to go through. If we're doing that 20, 30 times a day,
yeah, you're gonna get these cravings for carbs because carbs are one of the things that's going to blunt cortisol nicely in your system, and it's going to drive that overeating because of also how cortisol affects your blood sugar management / mismanagement. There's a whole cycle of how cortisol and insulin and everything are related to each other. So just know that there are these other physiological aspects happening. The other thing besides the macronutrients, the cortisol and your hormones, and then it's the micronutrients. So many of us have micronutrient deficiencies, whether they're various minerals, various vitamins, and certain things can be exacerbated by even just genetics, right? People who carry the MTHFR defect can have issues with things like their B vitamins and their folate. And when you have these micronutrients that you're also missing, your body will still then drive you to overconsume these carbs, again, because it's just looking for energy to run on.
Yeah, it's a numbers game at that point. It's eat as much as you can. Maybe we'll get something. We'll get something that we need, right? But we're eating processed junk. We're eating grains, which has zero nutrients. I mean, grains. Like if you think about rice is simply sugar. There is no nutrients in rice that are even bioavailable at all. There's nothing in it other than carbohydrates, right? Wheat's the same thing. There's nothing in wheat that you need that you can't get from anything else, but yet it has all of this carbohydrate in it. So your body's over consuming carbohydrates is very easy. Like if you sit down to a bowl of rice, like I could eat 2 cups of rice, right? I've done it before, but I couldn't sit down and eat, that much volume of steak. My body would be like, nope, that's enough. You've had your fair share.
You reach a nutrient density level, and that's the whole goal, right? So under the physical and physiological levels, you have to prioritize nutrient dense foods, especially protein first. Like if that's all you did is literally just protein first, you're going to be on a much better path and track to managing this carb addiction if this is the bucket that you fall into, right, with the physical / physiological, which I would argue if you are any degree of overweight or obese, you absolutely fall into this bucket because one of the main drivers of overweightness and obesity that people aren't talking about is macro and micronutrient deficiencies.
I call it the MFer diet.
Meat first.
Meat first.
Yes, prioritize your protein, add in your healthy fats, fill up on those, and you should not, or at least have a dramatically reduced amount of cravings for carbs. So, all right. This is also a really dense topic. Like we could have did an entire video alone just on the physiological implications of how carbs impact your body. And maybe we will if there's enough demand for it. But for right now, just understand that this is one of the buckets that this falls into. Second one is mental. And what I'm categorizing as mental for the carb and sugar addiction is the brainwashed idea that you need them for some reason. Do you want to take this one to start?
Yeah, I heard it today. Like, oh, you have to have carbohydrates. Like, well, you don't. I mean, there is actually glycogen in meat, so you're getting a few when you eat meat. So you can't really avoid them 100%, right? But anytime that you consume exogenous carbohydrates, it's too much for your body. Your body has to work super hard to get rid of it, right? Your body. What happens when we eat carbohydrates? Our insulin goes up. What happens when insulin goes up? Insulin's job is to pull the blood sugar out of the blood. Why would it be doing that if blood sugar was so great for you? Why does your blood sugar spike and then immediately pull itself back down unless it was toxic? Okay, it doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, your body would say, "Hey, we want you to have 200 blood glucose level. We'll just leave the glucose in there all day long, and you'll just have all the energy you need." But what happens? You stop eating, your body goes back down to a baseline, which is what, 84? For me, it's like 84.
Mm-hmm.
If I, if I don't eat any carbohydrates at all, I stay at 84 all day long. That's where my body likes to be. So it's just like you look at the science, right? It's there.
And just like he's saying, so the other aspect too is not that so carbohydrates as a dietary source are non-essential, but your body still requires some glucose to run certain processes. So that's not what we're saying. I want to make sure we're very clear on that differentiation.
You do make your own carbohydrates.
You will make your own carbohydrates from protein through a process called gluconeogenesis. Now, where this process can get hiccuped is if we go back to the first topic that we had, and it's if you have excess cortisol, sometimes that process can be tainted. I don't know how, like that, again, that's a whole other topic that we could dive into just on its own, is this idea of gluconeogenesis under extremely stressful conditions. And that's, again, that's actually a theory that I have as to why some people really fare poorly and fail on carnivore. And it usually doesn't have to do with the fact that they weren't carnivoring hard enough. And in fact, they were probably carnivoring pretty hard. But it was their cortisol response to it that put them in that situation. So again, we should probably do another, again, if there's demand for these other like subtopics that I'm talking about, let us know in the comments.
There's also like the iron storage issue and things like that. So
yes, that's another video that we're going to be talking about too, is the iron storage stuff.
Which is a real issue, and we have lots of data on it. So like real actual blood work.
I have a ton of actual data that I plan to share one day.
No other doctors that are in the carnivore space see patients on a carnivore basis and have the blood work. None.
Yeah.
So there's nobody else that has this information.
So again, if you want any of these topics, like let us know in the comments. Anyway, so the mental stuff, again, changing the way that you think to move away from the traditional societal expectations as far as what a meal should look like or what a balanced meal should look like. The truth is that the most balanced meal is the one that gives you the most micronutrients that your body needs, not necessarily whether it comes from each of the various industries within the food industry, right? Like that, the food guide and the balanced plate stuff and like the My Plate, all of that is propaganda from these food industries that try to just get a piece of your plate. So
to me, a balanced meal would be eating part of the flesh, eating part of the skin, eating part of the liver, right? That's balanced. This is the same thing. It's a balance of all the different types of, you hear these people, it's so stupid. I hear them. They're like, you are what you eat. I'm like, well, I'm definitely not made of plants, right? I'm definitely not made of leaves or seeds or grains, or, what am I made of? I'm made of protein and fat. The whole body, like most of the cell wall is all made of fat. You're made of protein. Why would I consume something I'm not made of? If I'm going to make more tissue, I would need the things that my body is made of. Right? I'm not made of glucose, right?
Right. We're made of protein, we're made of fat, and there's collagen, all that other stuff in there.
It's all so simple, but people just don't want to you talk like I had a conversation with somebody today about that.
This is why the mental aspect is a topic on here, because it's all about changing your thinking. And here's just the one thing that I would like to leave you with on this mental aspect is that if what you knew and what you were doing currently was working for you, you wouldn't be seeking a way to change. You wouldn't be looking at alternative diets. You wouldn't be looking at ways to improve your health. If everything you knew and everything you were doing was working for you right now.
Hey guys, go outside. I'm on a video.
Okay, that was a pause. We just send the kids outside. But yes, if what you knew, what you were doing was working for you, and everything was correct, you would have no need to augment your health to try to improve.
Yeah, 93% of, well, at least in America, of the people in America are metabolically dysfunctional. That's a large percent, right? That's more than 9 people out of 10.
Exactly. So again, if what you were taught about food, about nutrition, about what it takes to fuel and nourish your meat suit was the correct thing, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in looking for alternative options. So that's the last part of the mental, which kind of segues into the other aspect, which is the emotional. And it's this idea that people absolutely use food as a comfort, whether they're happy, they're sad, they're celebrating, they're mourning. And it has taken on, food has become a support system for people. And it's not. Now, can you use it in certain situations intermittently? Absolutely. But if you are dealing with any sort of sugar or carb addiction and it's manifesting as its support for you, you absolutely need to seek the proper help for that. And I don't say that in a negative way, because therapy is great.
All plants that are addictive, right? Cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, they're all plants, right? Plants, sugar is plants. That's where they come from. It's all things that are addictive. You shouldn't put them in your body, right? You're not addicted to meat. You would never like, oh my God, I got to get more meat. I mean, you may think that because you like it and it smells good.
I kind of feel like that with being pregnant right now.
Right.
Like, can't wait for my ground beef, like truly.
But you're not addicted to meat. But if you put sugar in your mouth, it's very, very difficult not to put some other sugar in your mouth, which is the addiction factor. So eliminating those things, but plants are addictive. They're
Yes.
drugs. Sugar is a drug.
So you're literally using drugs to manage your emotions,
Right.
is what he's getting at. And this is important because if somebody like that was close to you that you loved had a drug problem, a cocaine problem, a heroin problem, what are the cool drugs people are doing these days?
Molly.
Whatever it is.
I don't think Molly's addictive, actually. It's not.
Whatever the plant addiction is, if it's a quote unquote hard drug, you would absolutely be getting the proper help with the proper channels. And I urge you to still do that with sugar and carbs.
Yeah, your drug doctor.
Your drug of choice is just different.
That doctor wouldn't be like, oh, you need to balance your drugs, right? You have a little bit of cocaine, have a little marijuana, right? Everything in moderation is fine. That's what they tell you. But it's such bullshit. Like, how much cocaine is like?
What's a moderate
amount of cocaine that I can do without damaging my body? I'm telling you, it's not. It's not. It just doesn't make sense.
Carbs are the same. They light up the same centers of your brain.
Actually, more so. Sugar lights up the part of your brain that lights up when you do cocaine. It's less, and it actually cuts off more blood flow to the brain.
Yeah. So as far as the emotional roots of that trauma that would make you want to seek the carb addiction, a lot of the time it's stuff that happened in your childhood, feelings that make you uncomfortable, unworthy. Maybe you've been in horrific abuse situations where, again, you're just seeking that comfort. Or again, maybe you're the type of person that wants to celebrate. Or maybe you're the type of person, again, alcohol is technically still a carb too. So still going after that. Yeah. Like all of these things, just take the time to actually spend it with a therapist. You can actually do online therapy now where you don't have to drive anywhere, comfort of your own house on Zoom, but work through these deeper layers, because if this is the bucket that you fall into, you will never be able to achieve the health that you're looking for if you're consistently in a carb addiction binge cycle that has these emotional roots in it. So I think it's important, and I want you to get this help because I do want you to have that healthy lifestyle, but there's going to be no doctor out there, no plan out there, no program out there that will ever be able to dig you out of the emotional hold that whatever trauma or anything else that happened in your background might have on you that's forcing you to go after these carbs. So again, not your fault, but your responsibility.
Yep.
And I think this is another important topic, right? I think this actually spans everything in your life. Everything that happened to you is not necessarily your fault, but it is absolutely your responsibility to take control and to correct for it if you have goals and things you want to achieve.
Agreed.
Cool.
Been there, done that.
All right, last one, and this is probably going to be the trickiest for most people, is the social addictive part of it, right? It's the going out to restaurants. It's the family dinners. It's the expectations to consume certain things.
Grandma's apple pie.
Right. This is hard because what this is going to come down to for a lot of people is a simple reassessment and realigning of your values. What does it mean to you? If eating grandma's apple pie is truly something that is more meaningful to you than your health, your future, your metabolism, your waistline, your brain power, your chronic pain, your skin issues, your gut issues, your autoimmune disorders, I can keep going.
Your A1C.
Right. If grandma's apple pie is truly more important to you than those, go for it. And even if you say it's more important just this one time a year, fine. If you can make those you're an adult, you can make those adult choices, make those adult choices. But if this is something that has a hold on you on a daily basis, weekly basis, or just any sort of semi-frequent basis where you're like, it's a Tuesday, got to go entertain those clients. And you end up with the chips and the salsa and the margaritas and the churros. And we live in Arizona, there's plenty of Mexican food here. So I'm using that as an example.
That's what everybody does. They all go out for Mexican.
That's just the culture here if you're into that. But at what point does that become just a social hang up or excuse for you to not actually move towards your goals versus something that you quote unquote have to do?
Yeah.
I think that there's things that we all have to kind of learn to move past. I mean, we don't hang out with a lot of people that we used to be friends with because our values no longer align with the things that they want to do. We don't want to stay out late. We don't want to eat those foods. We don't want to drink alcohol. It doesn't align with us. So we had to peel back from that. I know you have a lot to say on this topic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've pretty much covered it, but yeah, as far as the Mexican food in Arizona, they put like jalapenos on hamburgers at McDonald's here. It's ridiculous. They put Mexican food in everything. Right?
But again, the social aspect could be another reason why you are experiencing the degree of the carb addiction that you have. And this isn't to say that you couldn't still have your social network while trying to reach your goals. It might just take time for you to sit there and modify what it is that you can eat when you're in these situations.
I think there's a lot of it's programming, because I hear these same topics. Like you hear people say everything in moderation, or a balanced diet, or you need carbohydrates to live, or what have you. All of these different things or programs are things that you repeat in your head. So you're not saying them in your head when you ask yourself, oh, do I need to eat these carbohydrates? But that information's still there. So you're making the choice based on that information, even though you haven't gone over it. What you should do is reprogram that information. Like, I don't need carbohydrates. I don't need to eat, a little bit of rice or whatever with my meal, because you don't, right? All that stuff is damaging. And every meal you do a little bit of damage, that damage adds up over time.
Yes. Two things to that. One, exactly what he's saying. Anything that you do consume that doesn't necessarily agree with your system is 3 days of inflammation. If you never actually get out of that cycle, this is how you develop chronic disease. And then to his point about the brainwashing, if you've made your way out of it and you understand these things aren't true, that it's not, moderation really isn't that good for you, and you don't need carbs and all this other stuff, it's okay if the people in your life aren't there yet. You don't actually have to explain yourself to them, nor will they care, right? It ends up being the whole crabs in a bucket analogy at that point, where they see you improving, they see you getting better, they see you looking hotter and finer and all that good stuff, and you have more energy, and you're like reverse aging, and they want to pull you back down because how dare you? Yeah, well,
I end the conversation quickly, because I'm like, oh, let me see your abs and your six pack. Why should I do what you're doing? Is that working? Let's see what your body looks like, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, but my doctor, like, oh, but your doctor's also fat and stupid. Like, you what you're doing is not working, and you just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. You're like, and then they say something like, oh, well, I need to go to the gym more. Let me tell you something. Health is not, or dishealth is not from a lack of going to the gym, right? If anything, the gym makes health harder. Okay, it's adding inflammation. So if you're already in an inflamed, this is one of the things that I did to myself. I used to eat terrible, and I was working out all the time. I was making it worse. It wasn't getting it. Yes, I might have muscles, but a fit, healthy body is not an indicator of health. There's a lot of things going on underneath that are way more important than that, right? Having muscle is important, but that's middle on the priority list.
Yeah, and you'll know you're doing the right thing simply by the backlash that you get. Like, it's the Mr. Smith effect.
Yep.
It's like, if you've seen The Matrix, it's the Mr. Smith effect. It's that when you're there and you're shifting the matrix in a positive way, Mr. Smith's going to pop up and try to derail you. And he's going to do that in the form of your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your coworkers, your close friends, even your spouse or your partner. Like, you're going to get Mr. Smithed as you try this. But be Neo, be the one. Like, that's all you have to do is just be the one. Like, be that singular change. Do it for you. Understand that you have that power, and you're going to get the benefit, right? It's that whole thing. It's like, first they're going to ask you why you're doing it, then they're going to ask you how you did it. So hold to it. Know that you can overcome this. Sugar and carbs do not necessarily have to have a place in your life, unless you simply want them to and you can handle them. Like, I will have an infrequent dessert because I can handle that with my metabolic flexibility, and because I know that I have taken
steps. You pay for it. You always complain after you do it.
I totally do, because I know that it does rob me of future self. Like,
I can't do it, because if I do it, it comes up. I want it to be a pattern. But I can tell you that the few times I've had carbohydrates in like large amounts in the last like year and a half, which is few and far between, but I feel terrible. I feel tired. I feel lethargic. I feel brain dead. And it's more significant now that I haven't had those things in so long, that I wonder what level of thinking and capacity was I functioning at before. And now I know the difference, so I'm able to compare those things.
Yes.
Right? And people always say, like, oh, but I feel fine, I eat a balanced diet. I'm like, you don't know how fine you could feel, you know, like you don't know what you don't know. And because I've come so far on one side, now when I like, you know, dabble in the evil arts, I'm like, oh yeah, this is bad. Like I don't feel good. I sleep terrible, you know? So, I mean, it's just not worth it to me.
I would say that the overconsumption of carbs is the equivalent to putting yourself in credit card debt. You're only screwing over your future self, and you're only going to have to work harder in the future to overcome it. Yeah. So the best thing is just to not do it.
Don't use credit cards.
Don't spend. Don't eat the carbs. Just don't even put yourself in a situation. Again, if you are someone who truly has the metabolic flexibility to do so, aka you got a big ass bank account backing you up, maybe fine. But if you fell into any of the buckets that we discussed today, I would just urge you to take the steps that we've suggested to help to overcome it. So increase that nutrient density, work on your mental programming, cultivate that social circle a little bit differently.
Give less shits about what other people think too.
Oh my gosh.
That's me.
Yes. Zach literally doesn't care what anyone thinks. I don't know if you guys have noticed this.
Except you. I mean, I care slightly sometimes. Like I care enough about what you think, but
it's only because we get to do it.
There's like right, yes, because we have sex. But there's like 3 people in the world that I can the immediate family here that I give a shit about, and it's not because I don't care about other people. In fact, it's the opposite. It's just because if you're not true to yourself, and if I'm changing my beliefs in order to make you like me or to be a part of whatever it is that you're doing, and I know that you're wrong, then I actually don't care about you, right? Gosh, I care so much more about people in my life that I'm honest with them. And I've said this before, like I say it all the time, the stupid should hurt. If I do something stupid, I want you to call me stupid. Be like, Zach, that was the dumbest thing you've ever done. I'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. I shouldn't do that again because I just felt stupid, right? I'm not afraid to feel dumb. Right. And everybody online is just so like, you can watch like somebody type something and then it was like misconstrued a certain way. And then they're backing off. Oh, you know what I mean? And it's just it becomes this like thing of everybody's afraid to be dumb. But you know what? Stupid should hurt. Mm-hmm. You should feel hurt and feel pain so that you can change your behavior. If you're always avoiding that, nothing will ever change. Right. Mm-hmm. You should be ashamed of your nasty body that you're taking around. Right. I'm sorry, but you should, because that's what it's going to take for you to be like, yeah, let me change this. Let me do what it takes, because you feel that shame for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Back to shame. I love it.
Yeah.
Lean into the suck, lean into the shame, and you will ultimately emerge a better, stronger version of yourself on the other end.
But you're always, don't get me, everybody's always going to be stupid, right? Even if you figure stuff out. Yeah. You're still like, I'm still stupid. Like we don't have everything figured out. Right. But that's important. You should allow that process to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you stupid, by the way. They'll be all over YouTube. They'll be banned. I'll be banned, and boycotted or whatever. I'm not calling anyone stupid. I called myself stupid. So, but there's
the opportunity to be stupid. You might not be inherently stupid, but I think there's always a good opportunity to be stupid. I love being stupid because it means it's a chance for me to learn something new that I didn't know before. And that's where growth is. Like if I'm the same person that I was 2 years ago, I want nothing to do with myself because it means I'm still dumb.
If you do the same thing every day, every year for 80 years and call it a life, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So always changing.
We dropped a lot of nuggets in here. Mm-hmm. I love it. I hope you guys found this useful, helpful, whatnot. And again, if there is any of these subtopics in here that you want us to expand on, again, let us know in the comments, because we are always looking to, we want to serve you. Like we're here doing this for free just because we want to help you guys. And, it matters to have healthy families, healthy humans moving forward in this weird society that we currently live in. Mm-hmm. So thanks for joining us. This went a little longer than our normal 20-ish minutes, but we hope you got a ton of value out of it. And again, good luck on your journey into carnivore, into animal-based, or even just simply away from carbs. That might have a hold on you.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.